The Empire had arrived, and they weren't messing around. Massive ships, as dark as the void, hovered over every major city on Earth, their ominous presence filling the skies with an overwhelming weight of dread. From the surface, humanity looked up, seeing these colossal vessels suspended like silent titans, their engines humming softly in the distance, waiting for their command. And then came the message. It arrived on every screen, on every device that could possibly connect to a signal. TVs, computers, phones, even radios. The tone was formal, distant, and chilling in its simplicity. A cold, mechanical voice reverberated through the airwaves, speaking in a language so foreign that no human could have understood it immediately. It was followed by a translation, transmitted across all languages, as though designed to ensure every person on Earth knew exactly what was being said. "We are the Empire of Zorath," the message began. "Your world is now under our dominion. Surrender or face annihilation." The transmission cut off, leaving nothing but static. The message was clear. Humanity had no choice but to bend the knee or face utter destruction. The world went silent. There was no immediate response. Leaders gathered in emergency meetings, military forces scrambled to prepare for a potential invasion, and citizens began to panic. On the other side of the globe, in Washington, D.C., President Emma Hawke sat behind a large polished desk in a secure underground bunker, staring at the screens that broadcasted the alien declaration. The room was silent, save for the quiet hum of machinery and the occasional tapping of fingers on keyboards. Her advisors, generals, and experts were all around her, each one looking for a way to respond. "What are we dealing with here, people?" President Hawke asked, her voice steady despite the enormity of the situation. "Are they a threat? Do we fight back or do we surrender?" A senior military advisor, General Carter, spoke up. "Ma'am, they've made it clear. Their fleet is positioned above every major city. They have technology far beyond anything we've encountered. If they wanted to strike, they could wipe us out in a matter of hours." "Again," Sheriff Carter proposed. "Then we prepare for the worst," Hawke responded. "I want every branch of our military mobilized, and I want full-scale defense ready in case they make their move. But," she paused, her brow furrowed in thought, "we don't surrender. Not without knowing who we're dealing with. Send all our best negotiators up to the highest level. I'll need an audience with them soon." Outside, the world was thrown into a frenzy. Across the planet, citizens scrambled to prepare for the worst. Stores were emptied, families fled to underground bunkers, and governments issued warnings to be on high alert. And then, amidst the chaos, a curious thing happened. In a small town in Iowa, a teenager named Tim Jensen sat in his room, staring at his phone. He had heard the announcement. He had seen the memes flooding his social media feed. But instead of panic, he found himself laughing. People were already making jokes about the alien fleet, tagging it with snarky comments and sharing funny images. As Tim scrolled through his feed, he couldn't help but notice something. It was all absurd. People were laughing at the threat. They weren't scared, not yet. And that's when it hit him. Tim quickly typed out a tweet. "Hey, anyone else think we should just send them a bunch of memes? Might confuse the hell out of them." The tweet was in essence a joke, a ridiculous thought born out of the chaos that had consumed the planet. But as soon as he hit send, something extraordinary happened. Other people, thousands of miles away from him, saw it. And they didn't just laugh. They got the idea. The meme war began almost immediately. Within hours, the hashtag #MemesForZorath was trending worldwide. People from every country and every language began sharing their own memes, each one more ridiculous than the last. At first, it was just harmless fun. memes mocking the alien fleet, making fun of their design, and photoshopping the Emperor's face onto popular celebrity images. The humans, in their classic style, began to take something terrifying and turn it into something absurd. But what seemed like a joke quickly grew into something more. As the memes spread, something strange began to happen. The Empire's AI, which had been built to analyze human behavior, was suddenly overwhelmed. It wasn't designed to deal with such chaos, such randomness. The Zorath AI had processed every military strategy, every potential move humanity might make. It had anticipated humans' defiance and had prepared accordingly. But it hadn't anticipated one thing: the sheer unpredictability of human humor. In their attempts to monitor and decipher the memes, the Empire's systems encountered nothing but confusion. The jokes were simple, but layered in irony and satire. One meme depicted an alien ship with a giant rubber duck as its flagship. Another showed a human in a badly drawn alien costume holding up a sign that read, "We come in peace, please don't eat us." There were memes about Zorath soldiers being clumsy, tripping over their own feet, and fumbling with their weapons. There was even a poorly edited photo of the Zorath Emperor in a tutu, with a caption that read, "Zorath's new general, fierce but fashionable." At first, the Empire attempted to respond with more serious messages, hoping to quell the mocking response. "Humanity will face its end unless you cease this foolishness," one message demanded. "Surrender or perish." But the response only escalated. It wasn't long before human memes grew more bizarre. People began using the Zorath fleet as a backdrop for dancing cats. Entire YouTube channels were dedicated to creating absurd videos of aliens dancing, singing, and doing everything in their power to turn the once terrifying invaders into the punchline of every joke. TV shows, movies, and pop culture references began to embrace the invasion, incorporating the alien threat into their episodes, making them the subject of jokes and ridiculous scenarios. Meanwhile, on the front lines of the military effort, soldiers were prepared for war, but no one seemed to know exactly how to fight this new, unexpected enemy. In the face of superior technology, the human forces found themselves almost helpless, their weapons powerless against the might of the alien fleet. But as the memes gained momentum, the soldiers started to do something unexpected. They started sharing the memes. Instead of preparing their tanks and jets for battle, they were preparing their social media accounts. They flooded the internet with even more absurdities. They created meme bombs designed to overload the Empire's AI. This is not normal. At the White House, President Hawk watched the situation unfold. She had expected humanity to fight with everything it had. She had expected the world to unite in its resistance. But this was something completely different. The Earth had not responded with a show of military strength or scientific ingenuity. No, humanity's response was much simpler, much more absurd. They had turned the invasion into the largest, most chaotic meme war the world had ever seen. Are we really just doing this?" her chief advisor David Choi asked, incredulous as he watched yet another viral meme of a Zorath soldier wearing a birthday hat. "I guess so," President Hawk replied, still stunned by the sheer scale of the response. "And honestly, I don't know what else to do. They came here to conquer us, but I'm not sure they know what to do with this. Whatever they're expecting, it's not this." Weeks passed, and the memes continued. The Zorath Empire, once poised to dominate the galaxy, now found itself drowning in a flood of incomprehensible human creativity. Their artificial intelligence began to malfunction, unable to process the endless barrage of images, videos, and texts. They tried to retaliate with more serious transmissions, but they only seemed to fuel the fire. The more the Empire tried to assert its dominance, the more absurd the Earth's counter-response became. An AI report came back, stating, "The data analysis is inconclusive. The memes are too unpredictable." And then, in the midst of their growing frustration, a breakthrough came. The Zorath Empire's leaders, who had spent centuries planning their conquests, had never once anticipated that the key to human resistance would lie in something as ridiculous as memes. The Emperor, Zorath himself, called for a meeting with his top generals to figure out what to do next. "We need to crush this rebellion," Emperor Zorath said, his voice booming in the command room. "We will obliterate their world if we must. No one mocks the Empire." But General Gathar, one of his most trusted advisors, spoke up. "Sire, I fear we may have already lost. We cannot comprehend their behavior. Our systems are breaking down. We have become the laughingstock of the galaxy." Emperor Zor fell silent, staring at the reports. It was true. The Empire's systems were unable to process the sheer volume of human absurdity. The means were relentless, and with every attempt to strike fear into humanity's hearts, the human resistance grew even more ridiculous. The Zorath Empire had no answer to it. It was then, in the face of this bizarre and relentless onslaught, that the Zorath Empire made a decision no one could have predicted. "We surrender," came the announcement. "We, the Empire of Zorath, have seen the futility of our actions. You, the humans of Earth, have proven yourselves capable of resisting any threat. We surrender." The message was followed by something even more unexpected. "And, as a gesture of goodwill, we offer you a gift. A subscription to the greatest meme website in the galaxy." Humanity had won, not with weapons, not with war, but with the most absurd, ridiculous weapon of all, humor. The Zorath Empire, once a force of destruction, now stood humbled, beaten by the very thing they had underestimated. And in the end, it was the Empire that became Earth's biggest fan of memes, watching in awe as humanity's ridiculousness led them to victory. The world had never seen anything like this. A cold metallic silence stretched across the globe after the message had been received. The announcement from the Empire of Zorath, their invasion, echoed in every corner of Earth's communication systems. With their towering ships suspended in the sky, their ominous presence was impossible to ignore. Earth, in the span of a few minutes, had gone from thriving, bustling cities and peaceful landscapes to a planet on the brink of its greatest crisis. For a brief moment, humanity stood frozen, unsure of how to respond to such a terrifying power. The aliens were not like anything Earth had ever seen. Vast, technologically advanced, and seemingly unstoppable. They had come not to communicate, not to negotiate, but to demand humanity's submission. Their message was blunt and unequivocal. "We are the Empire of Zorath. Your world is now under our dominion. Surrender or face annihilation." The terror that followed was palpable. World leaders scrambled to understand the scale of the threat. The message had been transmitted in every known language, and the tone of it, so cold and commanding, left no room for doubt. The Zorath Empire was not asking for cooperation. They were demanding compliance. The world governments, long used to dealing with crises like war, terrorism, and natural disasters, found themselves facing a threat far beyond their usual scope. This wasn't an enemy with whom they could negotiate. This was an enemy that would not be reasoned with. The first emergency meetings began at the highest levels of government, with the leaders of the United States, Russia, China, and Europe meeting via secure communications to discuss the situation. For the most part, their reactions were similar. They immediately put their military forces on high alert, preparing for the worst-case scenario. Tanks, fighter jets, and naval fleets were mobilized by more drilling in the tomb. The number of X-ray machines was shrinking, and the fact that they still had time to try and find a way around the problem became more pressing. How could they possibly hope to fight against an enemy who possessed technologies so advanced? In Washington, D.C., President Emma Hawke sat in a darkened room, her eyes fixed on the massive screen before her. The weight of the world was pressing down on her shoulders, but her face remained calm. There was no room for panic, not when the future of the entire human race hung in the balance. "Is there any indication that they intend to strike immediately?" she asked, her voice steady, despite the uncertainty surrounding them. General Carter, a grizzled veteran of countless military operations, stood at attention beside her. "Ma'am, we have no intel suggesting an immediate attack, but their fleet is far beyond anything we've ever seen. The ships are huge, each one capable of taking out entire cities with a single strike. The technology is unlike anything we've ever come across. We're not prepared for this." "And yet we have to prepare," President Hawke replied, leaning forward. "I want full-scale defense protocols activated. Send all of our military forces to their assigned positions. It's time to show them we won't just roll over. We'll make them fight for every inch of this planet." She looked around at her advisors. "But there's something we need to understand. Something that's bigger than the military response. We need to find out who we're dealing with. I'm not going to go to war blindly." A quiet murmur of agreement spread through the room, and the meeting continued. But it wasn't just the government officials who were reacting. Around the world, people were panicking. Lines at gas stations grew long, stores emptied of essential supplies, and people turned to social media to express their fear. The skies, once clear and peaceful, were now filled with a fleet of ships so large that they seemed to blot out the sun itself. People couldn't look away. But amidst the chaos, something strange happened. A tweet went viral. It wasn't from any official source, nor was it from a world leader. It wasn't a declaration of war or a call to arms. It was from a teenager sitting in a small room somewhere in Iowa. The tweet was simple and somewhat tongue-in-cheek. "Hey, anyone else think we should just send them a bunch of memes? Might confuse the hell out of them?" For a moment, no one took it seriously. But then something remarkable occurred. People all across the world began to latch onto the idea. It started as a joke, something to lighten the mood in the face of an otherwise grim situation. But it didn't take long for the joke to take on a life of its own. Within hours, the hashtag #MemesForZorath was born. It spread rapidly, bouncing between social media platforms faster than anyone could keep up. People began sharing the most ridiculous images and videos they could think of, making fun of the alien fleet. Memes appeared with captions like, "When you invade Earth but forget to pack the fashion sense," and "When the Zorath Empire arrives and realizes Earth has Wi-Fi." The memes were absurd, humorous, and strangely defiant. They mocked the alien invaders and their attempts to intimidate humanity. But what was truly remarkable was how quickly they spread. The internet was flooded with new content every second, from photoshopped images of alien warships wearing party hats to videos of soldiers dancing in front of the spaceships. Humanity's response was as creative as it was ridiculous. No one knew exactly what was happening, but one thing was clear: humanity wasn't going to cower in fear. Instead, they turned the invaders into the punchline of an ever-growing joke. As the memes continued to spread, something strange began to happen on the other side of the galaxy. The Zorath Empire's communication systems, designed to process and analyze vast amounts of data, found themselves overwhelmed. Their AI, which had been built for the sole purpose of conquering planets, could not make sense of what was happening. Each meme they encountered was a new puzzle, one that didn't fit into any algorithm or pattern they had expected. The AI tried to break down the data, but the humor behind the memes was completely lost on them. How could they process images of their own warships with cat faces? How could they understand a meme where the Zorath Emperor had been photoshopped into a silly party costume? As for the rest of them, the video was a tragedy. At first, the Zorath Empire tried to ignore the memes. They continued to broadcast their demands for humanity's surrender. "You will cease these foolishness immediately, or we will destroy your planet," they threatened. But instead of backing down, humanity doubled down. The memes grew more absurd. People began sharing even more bizarre creations. Images of the Zorath fleet turned into inflatable pool toys, of alien soldiers being tripped by human pets, of disastrous attempts by the Empire to try and control Earth. And just when it seemed like humanity's response could not get any more ridiculous, it did. Social media exploded with a new wave of creativity. Entire YouTube channels were devoted to creating viral content that featured aliens attempting to adapt to human culture. There were skits of Zorath warriors trying and failing to understand the concept of a dad joke. There were mean compilations of alien ships being wrecked by terrible puns. It was as though the entire internet had become one giant slapstick comedy routine directed at the invaders. And the response from the Zorath Empire? They were completely lost. Their data analysis system simply couldn't keep up with the rapid and unpredictable barrage. The more they tried to analyze the memes, the more their systems started to glitch. The AI, which was designed to understand the most advanced technology in the universe, was utterly incapable of processing the simplicity of human humor. Inside the Empire's command ship, Emperor Zorath paced nervously. He had commanded the greatest fleet in the galaxy. He had conquered worlds before. Yet here he was, unsure of how to handle a species that was fighting back, not with weapons or strategies, but with means. "Why is this happening?" Zorath muttered to himself, his sharp, angular face twisting with frustration. "These creatures mock us. They insult us with their absurd images and their jokes. We are invincible." One of his generals, a hulking alien named Gathar, approached with a report. "Sire, the data is clear. The memes, they are spreading like wildfire. Our systems are overwhelmed. Our algorithms are failing." Zorath's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, failing? How could memes defeat us?" "They're not just defeating us," Gathar said, his voice grave. "They're making us look like fools. Our reputation, our power, it's crumbling. We've become the punchline of a cosmic joke." Zorath's fury was evident. "This is unacceptable. We must crush them." But as the days passed, it became clear that the more the Empire tried to assert its dominance, the more absurd and powerful the human response became. The Empire had not anticipated a war of such sheer ridiculousness, and they didn't know how to fight it. And then, just when the Empire seemed to be on the brink of collapse, they did the unthinkable. They surrendered. The message came through, broadcast across the globe. It was as calm and formal as any of their previous announcements, but this one carried a different weight. "We, the Empire of Zorath, have seen the futility of our efforts. We recognize the strength of the human spirit. You have proven yourselves to be a formidable opponent, and as such, we surrender." But the message didn't end there. "As a gesture of goodwill, we offer you a gift, a subscription to the greatest meme website in the galaxy." Humanity had won, not through weapons, not through diplomacy, but with humor. And the Zorath Empire, once poised to conquer the stars, now found itself humbled by the very thing they had never understood: the power of absurdity. The invasion of Earth by the Empire of Zorath, once a nightmarish specter looming over every major city, had slowly transformed into something wholly unexpected. In the beginning, humanity trembled beneath the sheer scale of the alien fleet that loomed ominously above. Gigantic warships darkened the skies, casting shadows that stretched for miles. The message, cold and emotionless, had been broadcast in every language, announcing that Earth's future was no longer in its own hands. "We are the Empire of Zorath. Your world is now under our dominion. Surrender or face annihilation." Book 3 of the Automation Trilogy. The response was swift, as one might expect. Panic, fear, confusion. Governments went into overdrive, calling for global meetings, military alerts, and preparations for the worst-case scenario. World leaders, military strategists, and security experts gathered in underground bunkers, attempting to figure out how to respond to an invader with technology so far beyond anything humanity had ever known. It seemed an impossible challenge, and for the first time in many years, humanity was faced with a truly existential crisis. There were no diplomats who could broker peace, no countermeasures that could stand up to such superior force. The only path forward seemed to be surrender, or fight a hopeless battle. But among the mass panic and confusion, a peculiar thing happened. As humanity turned to social media for answers, something strange emerged. Humor. It started with a single tweet. One teenager, sitting in his room in a small Midwestern town, cracked a joke, tweeting, "Hey, anyone else think we should just send them a bunch of memes?" Might confuse the hell out of him. It wasn't a serious suggestion, it was a joke. It was absurd, it was ridiculous, and it was, to be honest, a little bit hilarious. But, as so often happens on the internet, something caught fire. The hashtag #MemesForZorath exploded across social media, a viral phenomenon that humanity could not control. What began as a small, sarcastic commentary on the alien invasion became a cultural movement. Memes flooded the internet, each more bizarre than the last. Aliens were photoshopped into silly outfits, their warships transformed into floating rubber ducks, and the Zorath Emperor was depicted in the most ludicrous ways imaginable. The Empire, with its overwhelming military presence, had unknowingly become the punchline to humanity's greatest comedy routine. As the memes spread like wildfire, it didn't take long for the Zorath Empire to notice. The Empire's data analysis systems, built to handle and understand vast amounts of information, suddenly found themselves confronted with something they couldn't process: human humor. The AI, designed to handle every possible threat, to predict and plan for every possible resistance, had never been programmed to understand the chaotic unpredictability of jokes, irony, and sarcasm. What the Empire saw as an existential threat, humanity turned into an absurdity. Inside the central command of the Empire of Zorath, Emperor Zorath sat in his private chamber, fuming. The alien warlord had conquered countless worlds in his long reign, each one bending to his will with ease. But Earth was different. These humans were fighting back, not with weapons, but with memes. The images that flooded their communication systems were absurd, and even intergalactic diplomacy. But this was nonsense. "I demand an explanation," Zorath growled, turning to his top generals. "Why are we being mocked? Why are our fleets being turned into nothing more than punchlines? This is no war. This is an insult." General Gathar, his most trusted and loyal officer, shifted uneasily. "Sire, we've tried everything. We've analyzed every piece of data we've received, and we cannot make sense of it. These memes, they are baffling. The images, the texts, they don't follow any patterns. We've tried to shut down their internet, to block their communications, but they keep finding ways to get through." The Emperor's fury grew. "How can this be? Our technology is far beyond theirs. How can they defeat us with this absurdity?" General Gathar hesitated before speaking. "It's not just the images themselves, sire. The sheer volume of the memes is too much. Our systems can't keep up. We've sent out warnings, threats, commands, but instead of fearing us, they laugh. They mock us. They're not afraid of our ships, our weapons. They're laughing at us." The room fell silent, the weight of Gothar's words sinking in. Zorath had ruled for millennia, conquering planets with ruthless precision. Yet here he was, on the verge of being undone by something as ridiculous as humor. The AI systems designed to predict human behavior were completely flummoxed. In the past, every world the Empire had encountered had acted with fear and desperation when faced with such overwhelming power, but not Earth. Instead, the planet had responded by flooding the galaxy's most sophisticated communication systems with nonsense, with memes, with parody. And the more the Empire tried to respond, the worse it got. They sent another message, demanding humanity cease their mockery or face immediate destruction. But the response was immediate, and even more ridiculous. More memes appeared, many of which were simple slapstick humor. A poorly edited photo of a Zorath warship with googly eyes and a smiley face. Another meme depicted an alien soldier tripping over his own oversized feet, captioned, "When you've conquered 100 planets but still can't walk in human shoes." The Zorath fleet, once a symbol of unassailable might, was now the subject of endless ridicule. Soldiers. The humans did not back down. Instead, the absurdity continued to escalate. The memes multiplied, reaching a critical mass that the Empire could no longer ignore. Entire websites were dedicated to mocking the invaders. Videos of cats wearing Zorath helmets danced across screens, and deep-fried images of alien soldiers holding "I'm with stupid" signs became the norm. On YouTube, creators began making videos of Zorath soldiers attempting to learn Earth customs, only to hilariously fail at every turn. The Empire tried to take these down, but there were too many people creating, sharing, and spreading. Inside the Zorath Command Center, Emperor Zorath's rage reached a boiling point. His generals watched as his once calm demeanor crumbled. His empire, his carefully constructed rule, was being undone, not by a military power, but by a joke. An endless stream of images and videos that they could not stop. Zorath had never been in a situation where his might had been mocked, where his strength had been laughed at. He had underestimated the sheer resilience and creativity of humanity. What had started as a few silly jokes had turned into an all-out cultural phenomenon, an international resistance movement. "We cannot let this continue," Zorath muttered. "I will not be made a fool of." But the more he tried to assert control, the worse it became. The memes had now reached an overwhelming scale. It was no longer just the humans making fun of the Empire. The Empire was becoming the joke itself. And what was even worse, it wasn't just the humans anymore. Many of the neighboring systems, previously neutral, began to join in. They, too, shared memes mocking the Empire. The entire galaxy, it seemed, had turned against them. Back on Earth, the meme war raged on. People in every country joined in, from the smallest children making crayon drawings of Zorath soldiers to the most sophisticated programmers creating complex AI-driven memes. It had become a global movement, a statement. Humanity had found its voice, and it was through humor. It was a response so absurd that it rendered the Empire's power meaningless. What was the point of conquering a planet if the inhabitants refused to take you seriously? What was the point of weapons, of superior technology, if the thing that defeated you was a funny image, a joke, a meme? And so, after weeks of escalating absurdity, the Zorath Empire made the most unexpected decision. They surrendered. The transmission came through without fanfare, without ceremony. The cold, mechanical voice that had once declared their dominance now spoke words of capitulation. "We, the Empire of Zorath, have recognized the futility of our efforts. We acknowledge the strength of humanity. Your memes have defeated us, and we surrender." For a moment, the world stood still, unsure of how to process the unexpected turn of events. The aliens, with their vast fleets, their superior technology, had not been defeated by superior firepower or diplomacy. No, they had been undone by a flood of humor, a series of simple, silly jokes, amplified by the collective will of an entire planet. The Zorath Empire had come to Earth to conquer, to destroy, and they had left in disgrace, victims of their own inability to understand what humanity had done. But the message didn't end there. After announcing their surrender, the Empire's message continued, almost as if they had no other option but to go along with the joke. As a token of goodwill, they said, we offer you a gift, a lifetime subscription to the greatest meme website in the galaxy. The absurdity of it all was not lost on humanity. The invaders had not only surrendered, they had given humanity the ultimate cosmic punchline. It was as if the entire universe had conspired to make a joke of the Empire's once feared power. And so, with the Zorath Empire's withdrawal, Earth's victory was complete. Not by force, not by weapons, but by the most ridiculous response humanity could muster. The alien fleet, once a harbinger of doom, had been turned into an international joke. And in the end, it was that very absurdity that had saved humanity from certain destruction. As the dust settled and the means continued to flow, humanity learned something important. Sometimes the greatest power lies not in the strength of your military or the sophistication of your technology, but in your ability to laugh.